As we showed you earlier, Greeks voted in a critical national election today, a judgment on the country's harsh economic measures. We've heard a lot of talk about that from leaders, but what's it like for regular Greeks to live with the austerity? Our Ioanna Roumeliotis has an idea. Her roots are there, and so was much of her family. So she traveled back to get a sense of their mood. What she discovered? A sense of betrayal.
A Byzantine relic towers from high above the Taygetos mountain, a reminder of a once majestic country, now in financial ruin. The plaintive sound of music drifts over the tiny village of Mistras. Like so many places in this bewildered country, it's the site of a modern-day Greek lament. Springtime brings no sense of renewal here, only betrayal.
This crisis to become a revolution, and it's going to be European revolution.
We came to Greece to tell the human story behind a crushing recession and crippling austerity measures. It begins here, in this village, which is like a second home to me. Many of my extended family still live here, and they are among the millions of ordinary Greeks who are paying the highest price.
Γεια σου Ιωάννα, γεια σου, καλώς όρισες. Τι κάνεις, καλά είσαι, καλά, ωραία, μπράβο, καλά. Πότε ήρθες.
Hi guys. Growing up, the Nicolaou house was always a welcoming place. It's full once again. And not just because of our visit. After living on their own for years, 3 of my cousins here, Corina, Panos, and Ilias, have come back home to live with their parents in the village. Like so many other young Greeks, they simply have nowhere else to go.
There are 2 or 3 months that every day I'm always in my computer just sending CVs, okay, and hope that something's gonna be up.
And what did you get back?
Sometimes nothing, no answer, or sorry.
I'm 34 years old, he tells me, and I have to live with my parents. When will I have my own family? I can't even get a loan to buy a house. My wages are too low.
The biggest problem is that we don't dream anymore. We don't do dreams anymore. We just try to survive.
All 3 are part of a new generation of working poor. In a country where unemployment is soaring, where more than half of young people don't have a job, that makes them the lucky ones. Corina should be working as an engineer, but the only job she's been able to find is a month-to-month office position, and it's about to dry up. Panos is a firefighter, but the austerity measures mean his wages were slashed. He's only making about $800 a month. Then there's Ilias, a high school teacher working on his PhD. His pay cut was deep, too. He now brings home about $1,300 a month. All of their salaries put them well below the poverty line.
The thing that make me very, very sad is that I know people with dignity. They are people with their job, their home, their families, and now they have nothing.
In this crisis of faith, there is little solace to be found. Orthodox churches across the country now end sermons with pleas for donations to people who have less to give every day. Father Lazaros Skagos is a family friend whose own children recently lost their jobs. We will learn to live with less, he tells me. What else can we do? Greece's dive into poverty has brought with it a deep sense of shame. No one has asked Father Lazaros for help. But he knows of many families who need it. So every other day, he delivers donated groceries in the early hours when no one can see him. Greece does feel like a country that has lost its bearings, especially in Athens, its largest city. 5 straight years of recession have forced a staggering 68,000 businesses to close in the last year and a half alone, and unleashed a torrent of fury scrawled everywhere at a government that let it happen, that left them bearing the cost. Michalis Spoudalakis is a professor at the University of Athens.
The wages in public sector and in private sector dropped very drastically. We're not talking about 10 or 15%, which was the case in other countries where stability pacts have been applied, like in Portugal or in Ireland. We're talking about 40%, and there is another 10 to 20% expected to be cut in June.
At a city-run soup kitchen in central Athens, volunteers prepare lentil soup for the hundreds of new poor that will soon line up. The level of poverty has been unseen here since the Second World War.
What is the new poverty that you're seeing?
People who are well educated, people who were executives in companies.
Dimitra Nousi says Greece's strong family ties mean many families are moving in with their relatives. But she's afraid. How long can that last?
We don't know when these people are going to find a job, for example, when these people are going to be able to pay their rent. I wouldn't like to see little children 10 or 5 years old waiting for a soup in the line.
That bleak future has already caught up to many. At one of the new homeless shelters opened since the recession, we met Yorgos Parkouris.
Πόσο καιρό είναι που μένετε εδώ?
Από τον Νοέμβριο.
He brings me to the room he shares with 2 others. Only a few years ago, Parkouris was working at Greece's foreign ministry. His job was cut, so was one part-time job after another. He ended up on a park bench and thought of ending his life.
Did you ever expect to be staying in a shelter?
No, I never expected. So you're trying to go up, to find a job, to be social, but after a while you can see that was impossible. It was not my life. I was a middle-class person with everything. And I had nothing.
Aris Violanzis is a psychologist who volunteers at a suicide helpline. There's been a 45% increase in suicides in the last year alone. The most shocking just last month at Athens Parliament Square. A retired pharmacist shot himself in broad daylight. His final words, scribbled on this note, are a searing indictment. He simply couldn't afford to go on.
We are all very surprised with the fact that we are already 5 years into it and we don't see any way out at all. We see a tunnel at the end of the tunnel.
Back in Mistras, life seems idyllic in comparison. I meet my cousins again at my father's home. They are not going hungry, but they all hunger for what people here used to take for granted, a future.
You feel insecure, you feel angry, you feel upset, and the biggest problem is that if you stay in Greece, you have no options.
Only the ones they give themselves.
If I think positive and all the people think positive, I think where we can go. We can do something better, something new and something better.
I'm not sure when I will see them all again, or what their lives will be like when I do.
See you.
Okay,
yes.
bye.
Good luck.
And as a plaintive tune turns to one about a nation awakening to a new sunrise, I find myself wondering when or if people here will see a new day too. Ioanna Roumeliotis, CBC News, Mistras, Greece.